So Umar asks, can we do a video using React, hooks, and RxJS? And absolutely we can on this Blue Collar Coder viewer request video. And if you want your topic covered, be sure to put that in the comment section down below and I'll take a look at all the comments, and I'm happy to do that and see if there's another good video in those comments. Now what we're going to do to test this out is we are going to build this cool Pokemon deck builder app. It allows you to go and search through a list of Pokemon and then select them, and that makes a deck out of them. And we will manage all that state using RxJS, which is a reactive state management system that was around way before React and is really well accepted in the community. It's really cool, so I'm happy to do a video on it. One caveat though, I am not by any means an RxJS expert. So if you have any, hey, you should have done this ways, be sure to put that in the comment section down below and we can all have a chat about that. I think that'd be really good. Meantime, of course, let's just jump right in and build ourselves a Pokemon app using RxJS. So I'm going to go over to the terminal, go into the temp directory, and I'm going to do yarn create React app, and we'll call this RxJS Pokemon, and I'll use the TypeScript template for that, so we're going to be doing TypeScript. Okay, let's bring it up in VS Code. And the first thing I'll do is bring up the terminal, and then within that I'll do yarn add RxJS. I'm not going to use any libraries at the beginning to get React and RxJS talking together. I eventually will. There's a really good one that allows us to connect to observables, and it's probably better than doing this by hand. Let's bring that up, yarn start. So there you have it, the basic React launch screen. Let's go and pare this down a lot. Get rid of all of that stuff. Get rid of this class name. Don't need that. Don't need that logo. And let's go and change the CSS just a little bit to make the font sizes larger and bring it in from the corners. And I'll also make our input fields big, as well as the checkboxes. And for this one, make it width 100%. Cool. Okay, so now I need the Pokemon data. And I've got some actual local Pokemon data that I'm going to drop in here. Of course, all of that is available to you in the code that's on GitHub. I'm just going to put that into my public directory, and we'll take a look at what that looks like. So this is just an array of Pokemon where you've got the ID, you've got the name, some types, some statistics, you know, the usual kind of stuff. Now let's go and create a new file called store. And that's going to be where I'm going to hold the global state here. And one of those things is going to be that list of Pokemon. So how does RxJS store and manage state? Well, it uses what are called observable subjects. So a subject can be any piece of data, and observable means that its value could change over time and you could subscribe to it. So you create the subject, you give it new values using a method called next, and then any subscribers see those new values as they come in. Now the type of subject I'm going to use is called a behavior subject. And the reason I'm going to use behavior subject is because behavior subject actually stores its most recent value and makes it really easy to use. So I need to go and create a new thing called raw Pokemon to store that list of Pokemon. And I'll just do new behavior subject with an array, but I really want that to be a typed array. I want to actually have the Pokemon data in there. So I'm going to go and go over here to Pokemon Simplified. I'll copy out that first one, and then using a VS Code extension, I'll convert that JSON that's in the clipboard to a Pokemon interface. And this is right, this has the ID, the name, and all that good stuff. So this is not going to be any, it's going to be an array of Pokemon. Now, why did I put this $$ at the end? What's that about? Well, by convention in RxJS, anything observable has a $$ as the suffix. So it's just a nice way of knowing that that's an observable thing that you can do a subscribe on. Let's do fetch, and then we'll do that Pokemon simplified. Just get the right name here. And then get the response back as JSON, and then we'll do that next to say that here's the next value for that data. And if we had multiple times that we were going out and getting data, we just keep doing next, 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 and every time we would completely overwrite the original value with this new set of data. All right, so that's probably good for a start. Let's go and export this so that I can consume it on the app side. We'll import raw Pokemon from that store. And now I want to use useEffect to subscribe to that raw Pokemon. So do a useEffect. That's going to take a function. And when do we want it called? Well, we want it called when the component starts up. And to do that, we use an empty array. And then here, we can say Pokemon.subscribe. Actually send it to console log. There we go. Cool. So let's go over here to our Google Chrome. And now we got a blank page. Awesome. Well, let's do inspect and see what we get in our console. Okay, so down in the console, we can see we have an array of hundreds of items, and they actually all have that data. That's really cool. So we first get an array with nothing in it, which is the blank array that we created the behavior subject with, and then we get the array of 809 items in it, all of which have Pokemon data in them. Now, in the original app, we actually had a power ranking for each one, and the data that we get back doesn't have that power ranking in it. So we need to derive the power ranking from that. So we create a new optional field called power. And now, in addition to Pokemon, we'll create a new observable from raw Pokemon. So how do we do that? Well, I'll create a new one called Pokemon with power. Again, $ because observable. And then we'll pipe the output of raw Pokemon through a function that will give us that new power ranking. So how do we define that function? Well, we use a map, and we get map in this case from RxJS. And map takes that list of Pokemon. And then from there, we're going to do another map because this is actually an array. So if we look at this, this is an array of Pokemon. So we then can do a map on that. And we'll take all the original Pokemon data, and then we'll create a new field called power that has all of this data associated with it. So let's see. Terminate that, terminate that, terminate that, and yeah, there you go. So the power is just going to be all of those stats added up. So now, if we export this instead of raw Pokemon, and we subscribe to that, let's see what that looks like. Again, we have this massive array. And if I drill down in any one of these, like Bulbasaur, for example, we can now see that it's got a power ranking on it, which is the sum total of all those statistics. And that's pretty good, actually. Okay, so let's close this out again. So now we're seeing how the reactive part of RxJS works. When raw Pokemon changes, Pokemon with powers automatically updates because of this relationship between the two. RxJS knows that the output of this pipe is then another observable Pokemon powers that has all of this data. So whenever this changes, this will change in kind. I think it's really cool. It's a nice way to model data that's similar in a way to what you get from a spreadsheet. Okay, so the next thing to do is start building out that UI. I don't want to keep looking at our Pokemon through the console. So the first thing we need to do there is build out the left-hand side, which is a search area, which you type in the search key that you want, and it goes and finds the Pokemon that have that name. So let's go back into our app, and we'll bring in useState. So we're going to want to go and store that search value. We'll create a new component called search. And within that, we will have a search field. We'll create a div there, and within that input, we'll have that search field as a value like that, and then we'll have the onChange. Pretty cool. So let's go back over into our app, and actually we'll get rid of this useEffect for the moment. And we'll create a new grid here that has a 2-column layout. And we'll put that search bar in there. Cool. Okay, let's go take a look. All right, so we got a text field here. Now we need to actually show the Pokemon down here. So we need to use a useEffect again. And we need to subscribe to that Pokemon with power. But I actually think in this case, we want to go and store the list of Pokemon that we have in that Pokemon with power. So let's go and create a new local called Pokemon. It has that array. And then we'll do set Pokemon when that changes. Now this is actually going to give us a subscription. And we want to be good about unsubscribing. So we need to return a function that calls unsubscribe when this component unmounts. And now with these two, we can do a use memo that takes the search and the Pokemon and gives us the list of Pokemon that we actually found. So let's do use memo and then create filtered Pokemon, where the Pokemon name includes that search value. And it depends on Pokemon and search. Now let's be a little bit better about this. So I want to do 2 lowercase. And also search to lowercase. That might make it case insensitive. All right, now we'll go down here and we'll create a div that has in it our filter Pokemon where we map them. And we'll give it a key, and we'll put in the power there. That looks pretty good, actually. I want to make this strong so you can see the name over the power like that. Okay, looking good. Now if I type in bulb, awesome, not bad. Okay, cool. So next thing we need to do is make these selectable, and then whatever we select there will go onto the deck display that we'll put on the other side. So we need another subject. We need a selection subject that keeps the list of all the IDs of the ones that we've selected. So let's go back over into our store. We're going to make that global. So create a new one called selected. Again, it's observable. And we want to be an array of numbers, not just a single number. So there you go. And we'll go down here to store. And now we'll put in an input field. Type equals checkbox. With the checked, where we look at the value, because every behavior subject has a current value in it, and we'll see, which is going to be a number array, and we're going to see if it includes the ID of the Pokemon. And then when we do the on change, we need to see if it's in the array. And if it's in that array, then we need to remove it. And if it's not in the array, then we need to add it. So let's go do our on change. So the first thing we need to do is go and see if it's selected. So if the selected value includes that ID. Okay, so in this case, we actually have that value in the array. So now we want to do selected and give it a new value using next, where we've removed that value from that array using a filter. So we do the filter, we get an ID, and if the ID matches the one that we're actually currently working on, which is p.id, then we remove it. Otherwise, we let it go. And then we do else, and in this case, we just want to go and add on the ID into the array. So we do next again to give it a new value, and then we give it that original value plus that new ID. Okay, looking pretty good. We've got all these checkboxes in here. Now if we click them, nothing happens. But if we do, like for example, BUL and then bring it back, okay. So selected is actually getting changed. But what's happening here is we don't have that connection to React. We haven't done the use effect that we did up here to go and connect that selected with state. Now, okay, we could do selected again. We could create another use effect, but I think what would be more interesting would be to actually alter Pokemon to add on the selected value. And we'll go and add on selected, which will be a Boolean, and we'll create yet another subject. And this subject is actually going to be a combination of the original Pokemon and the selected, and then the output would be a new Pokemon where the selected is true if it is found in that selected array. Okay, so let's create a new one called Pokemon. And I'll actually go and start with Pokemon with powers. Now, pipe can actually run through multiple functions. So the first function we want to have it go through is going to add in selected. So what we can do is we can go back over here and we can say combine latest with. And we can put that in as the first function in this pipe. Pipe has multiple functions and it's got to step through every single one of them. So now at this point, we'll do map, but that map is going to have the Pokemon value as well as the selected value as an array, just like that. And we can use, at this point, again, that map on Pokemon to take everything Pokemon, but also give us the selected, where it includes the ID. So now selected is going to be true if it's in this array. All right, cool. So now let's see over here on Pokemon. Get rid of Pokemon powers. And here, now I've got selected. So I'm just going to p.selected. Cool. Very nice. And now if I change this and I bring it back, nice. We can see that we actually have that. So let's go back in over here just one more time to see how this is working. So Pokemon with powers, we are using that as a starting point. And then we are bringing in the selected observable. And then with that, we have this map where we take that array. We got these two items now in the array. We got the original list, the new list of Pokemon, and whether they're selected or not. And then we generate from that the Pokemon array, which is also observable, where we've got this selected value. And so whenever anything here changes, Pokemon power or selected changes, we automatically update Pokemon, which is really cool. So what do we need to export out of here? Well, we don't need Pokemon powers anymore. That's part of it. Cool. But we do need a deck. We want to go and have this deck over here. So let's go and create another observable called deck. And again, we'll pipe. And again, we'll map. And we'll just run the Pokemon that we get from here, this Pokemon, and say, well, if it's selected, then it's part of our deck, and otherwise not. All right, so let's bring that in. And we'll create a new component called deck. And we'll return from there like a H6 or whatever, H4 that says deck. And we'll just put it side by side. Now I could go back and do this use effect and manage that state and all that, but in all honesty, there's a better way to do this, and that's to use this library called observable-hooks. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in observable-hooks, and it's just a set of React hooks that makes it easier to connect with these observable subjects. So let's yarn add that, and we'll start up again. Now from that, I'm going to bring in use observable state. And I can get deck by calling use observable state with that observable, that deck observable. So what is that type? If I do Command K, Command I can see that this is actually an array of Pokemon. Awesome. But one thing is interesting, it's actually got undefined down here. And that's because before you get any events emitted from RxJS, we don't know what you might be. So I'm going to say that the initial state here is just an empty array. And that's going to make sure that this is always an array, and therefore we can do a nice convenient map on it. So let's wrap this in a div. As we do with all things React. Divs, divs, divs. And then we'll go through all of that deck, and we will key on the ID. Cool, and we'll put in an image. Nice, and I'll also go and put in another div that's got the name. And I'll make them a flex box to put them side by side. All right, now as I change this, oh wow, that was fast. That's really cool. But it's so cool to see the reactive nature of RxJS and React working together like this. It's just is really clean. And you can see over here, you just got these declarative relationships between deck and Pokemon and selected. And this is all just completely platform agnostic at this point. You could go put this in anything. You could put this in Node.js or whatever you want. This is a really nice way to model data and have everything react the way it should, like in a spreadsheet. Okay, so let's go back over to app, and can we use this use observable state anywhere else? Sure. Well, basically we have the same thing going on here with this combination of this use state and this use effect. So all we need to do here is say use observable state. Again, it's an array. It's going to be just the Pokemon, and we'll just put it on Pokemon. Yep, works great. So now we can get rid of that use effect. We can even get rid of this definition of Pokemon, kind of tighten things up a little bit here. So if you didn't want to model this all as globals like this, could you use context for that? Sure, let's try out using context. So we'll bring in, now we'll actually make it a little bit more React specific. So I'll go up here to import create context from React, as well as use context. And then we'll create something called Pokemon context using create context. And we'll just give it everything we want in there. We want the Pokemon dollar, we want deck dollar, we want selected dollar. Let's go and do all that. And then we'll create a new component called Pokemon provider, which is a React function component. And the reason we want that is we want access to the children because we're going to wrap things. And we'll do that Pokemon context provider. We'll put in everything we did before, just like that. And then we'll put in the children in there, and then we'll put in, and we'll finish off Pokemon provider like that. Great, cool. Now let's go over here and bring it in. We want Pokemon provider as part of this. And we'll wrap the app in our Pokemon provider. But we're obviously still getting these values from the exports, and we don't want to do that. We want to have that come in through context. So let's go back over here to our store.tsx, and I'll create a new custom hook called use Pokemon. And all it's going to do is just use the context of the Pokemon context. So we'll go back over here into app, and we'll get rid of all of these and just use Pokemon. And then when we need them, we can just bring them in. Deck dollar comes from use Pokemon. And let's see, this one needs Pokemon dollar. Like that, as well as, I think, selected. Yep. Cool. Let's try it out. Yeah, looking really good. So now everything's provided by context as opposed to being a global export like that. In fact, we can go back over here into store. And what can we remove? Well, we can remove a bunch of these exports. Like deck no longer needs to be exported. Selected no longer be exported. Pokemon no longer be exported. The only thing we need to export is maybe the interface. Not always. Cool. Looking good. So can we take this up to the next level by using RxJS to manage basically all of the state in the app? And the only state we have that's not managed by RxJS is this little search field. So how can we do that? Well, we can actually use like a behavior subject for this state. So let's bring that in. From RxJS, we'll bring in our behavior subject. So how do we create one of those that's local to the component? Well, one way to do it is just to use a memo. So we'll create a new thing called search dollar, which is a use memo that just creates a behavior subject. And it never changes because we only want it once. And now we can get rid of search and set search. And this is this value. And then we want to use that next. Cool. But this filter Pokemon now isn't going to know that this search changed, right? Because search no longer exists. So we need to actually redo filtered Pokemon using the same kind of thing. So we use observable state again to basically regenerate filtered Pokemon. So we'll create filtered Pokemon using use observable state, but in this case we'll give it a function. And so the next thing we want to do is return an observable that we can then get the state off of. So the way that we do that is we take Pokemon and pipe it again like we did before. And the initial value here is going to be an empty array just like before. But we want to use our trick like we did with that selected, where we had the original list of Pokemon and we kind of added on selected. In this case, we want to kind of filter it down. So we want to use that combine latest with and bring in that search observable. And then we want to do that map. And that's going to have the most recent Pokemon value along with a search value. And we'll do basically just what we did before. So let's do the 2 lowercase again. Make the case insensitive. Now we need that map. We no longer need that. But this particular way of using use observable state actually gives us an array back. So I want to take the first item off this array, and that is the filtered Pokemon. So do Command K, Command I, and there you go. There's our list of Pokemon. So I'll hit save, jump on over to here, and yeah, awesome. So can we try the bulb again? Yeah, works perfectly. So now we can remove this, and we've got a React app where all of the state is managed using RxJS, even down into the actual component itself. So you can make global component state using RxJS subjects, and then you can also make component local state using RxJS subjects. All right, Umar, I hope I've helped you understand a little bit more about how to get RxJS connecting to your React application. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, be sure to put those in the comment section down below. And for the rest of you, of course, you can also do the same. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you really like the video, hit the subscribe button. Click on that bell and you'll be notified the next time a new Blue Collar Coder comes out.